Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting me here to Albania. Thank you to the FABER team for inviting me today. I'd like to talk about vertical communities and horizontal communities today. And we'll start with a little bit about my practice. Aqua Architecture is based in UK, so RIBA chartered practice. And we also have a branch in the Middle East in UAE, Dubai, which is called AquaX Architects. And our key focuses are maximizing values through design efficiency with the the main things that we're looking at, which is environmental design and sustainability, as well as mindful design, looking at wellness in design. And also, we are exploring the realms of AI, like a lot of designers, but we're still on that journey at the moment. We've also, well, in my experience, 20 years as an architect, I've also done some variety of projects through globally, through different regions. So the Dubai Metro, for example, and the Dubai Opera House was one of my early projects, and then we've done like smaller mixed-use residential schemes in the UK as well. But today I want to speak about this vertical community project, which is called basically Wildcrest Parks. It's based in Dartford Bridge in East London. I don't know if you're familiar with Dartford Bridge. It's basically an industrial location, but has a lot of heavy traffic going through it. And this project started off with the aspirations to create something which is going to bring the client a great return on investment, but also to create something which is actually all about regenerating a certain area in a certain way. So the first steps that we always look at is whether or not we can refurbish the project, and trying to do it in a way where we're refurbishing the existing, but we, through our calculations, found that that was not working too well. And we came up with the idea of how about we create a mixed-use community which would impact the surrounding area, and how can this sort of community illustrate that this sort of high-rise tower, can actually demonstrate that it will be a more profitable venture. So this is how we went through the idea of creating a whole vertical community proposal. We started off with looking at the surrounding context and realized that, to really make it work as a community, as a vertical tower, we needed to make sure it had all the basic principles. So that's why it became a very alternative mixed-use scheme. You have the penthouse at the top, and then you've got the co-working and offices on the lower floors, with the co-living and apartments in the middle. So it became very much like a whole, live, work, and play unit. And to make that, so to evolve that in a space that really worked, we had two main criteria. One was revolving around mindfulness and wellness in architecture, and the other one was basically ensuring that it was a very green biophilic design. And the way we created that was looking at how the social spaces were working and enhancing the social spaces, like having communal kitchens and communal gardens and the sort of shared working spaces, but also integrating winter gardens and green balconies, spaces, roof gardens with gym and cafes and restaurant, and a ground floor spa. But the important part for us was also to make it a computational design which was reacting to the environment and the climate in the local area. And this was all about creating a proposal which was looking at the energy modeling and then using our software to generate the facade design, where it was basically maximizing cooling on the south side, where you got maximum sunlight, and heating and maximizing the views on the north side to allow maximum light, where it would be usually quite dark. And that computational design sort of led the way in which we evolved the proposal. So ultimately, we are using a lot of different strategies around wellness and sustainability to create a proposal which is looking at the individual and humanistic approach towards design. So this was completed in a very different style to a project I'll discuss now, which is the horizontal community in Ascot. So this site is a real it's kind of a totally different approach to the previous project, and it was an opportunity to look at the biodiversity, the ecology of the site, but also looking at the whole human requirements and the need of current society that we're living in. The initial approach could have been very easy. We could look at what the developers want and the stakeholder wants, but at the end of the day, it was also to really make the site work. We needed to give this site something that the society needs, that the local community need, and that's where the whole sort of approach towards housing for a certain demographic, for supported living where people need extra support and help, and for an aging senior population where you have a care home and also support for an aging population. So we created a whole series of studies. We studied the local council and we studied the local community. We spoke to stakeholders. And the kind of process that we put together started off from data collection of what was there, what was needed in the realm of social care, and how we can maximize this site to provide the care that was specifically required. We spoke to different housing associations and then looked at the supply of social housing. And we discovered there was a real need for it. There was a real demand for a certain type of housing for communities which needed extra support. And based on that input, we then started to develop the master plan. The key elements that we focused on was generally about what the aging population as well as the local population needed, the types of housing, the transport and connectivity was an important part of it, and of course, wellness-centric design. And this just illustrates that where our site was, the need that we were trying to establish was not close to our site, so we were studying that. And where our site was also, it's kind of a location it's a very green location, so we have to be tread carefully about designing a location which has nothing there at the moment. So it was looking at the surrounding context as well, and thinking about how we can sort of regenerate this space, looking at the connectivity to the site and monitoring how you would get around the site as a pedestrian as well as driving. And then creating this initial master plan, which is looking at balanced living, diverse solutions, and enhanced community. The master plan evolved quite a lot, and the area schedule and the accommodation schedule evolved quite a lot as the process went on. One of the key focuses was creating an intergenerational community. The idea behind that was to make sure that we weren't creating a community was just for people with certain needs, but also there was a balance between the more senior members of the community as well as the sort of younger families. And so it was a mixture of different types of housing needs. But it's all centered around a central park, a communal park, which was revitalized with certain strategies. Looking at sort of routes through the site was mainly focusing on minimizing cars and maximizing pedestrian use of buggies and cycling and walking. And that sort of was within the site area that we were emphasizing. And then looking at the care home, it was creating the requirements, but also these sort of social hubs in between, so that it would it would create more interaction and opportunities. And then also with the supported housing, where you have some kind of level of support, but also some level of independence. It all sort of centered around this this communal park, Same with the different types of housing. So the focus came onto the communal sort of community hub, which was a community center, which was also where you had some of the commercial spaces like the pharmacy and cafe and so on, but also had a health center above, so that required us to make sure we're kind of providing enough facilities for this whole community to function efficiently. And then we also did WELL accreditation. I'm not sure if you might be familiar with that, as in we had a WELL AP who analyzed how we can apply the wellness strategies to the site. And again, that communal hub was an important part of that strategy to make it work, and the connectivity between that and the surrounding buildings. The activity spaces were quite important for how we generated that central park. So we looked at outdoor gym, play area, Zen gardens, activity zone, routes to run around, a running track around the site, and a main plaza where activities for the community can be held. And then there was the ecological side of things, where we had to kind of make sure we were not destroying the key habitats of this green space. So we actually created a zone around the site, working with our ecologists to ensure that the key elements of the site, which was in the perimeter of the site, were retained as green protected spaces. And those spaces were are proposed to be fenced off, and then we created a nature trail to run on the inside of on the outside, sorry, of the protected areas, so that you basically could run around or walk around the whole area, but observe the sort of the protected zone, but not to sort of disrupt it. So allowed for like species to grow and so on. And then we also had the SUDS calculation and used that for water harvesting, SUDS and relaxation ponds within the site. So working with specialists, it allowed us to hone into the real needs of the biodiversity of the site and actually have some clear strategies around that as well. Between the two processes, we managed to kind of enhance what was our first purpose to start the scheme, was, to keep it as green and biophilic as possible. And that kind of came through the sustainability strategies of like economic vitality and social well-being and environmental responsibility within the site and proposal. Again, also we did the sunlight daylight strategies to ensure that they were like as much the daylight orientation for the actual buildings were as efficiently maximized as possible. And then to create like little hubs of communities within the residential as well, where you had the use of the correct type of recyclable materials for the construction site. So this was our final master plan and housing proposal. And then we also did a little bit of AIs to generate some of the sort of potential styles and the way that we might want the houses and the community to look. Thank you.